Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the very first session of Commerce and Labor in the 82nd session of the Nevada State Legislature. So with that, Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
Senator Buck,
Here.
Senator Daley,
Here.
Senator Hammond, Senator Lang, Senator Pazina,
Present.
Senator Scheibel,
Here.
Senator Stone, here. Chair Spearman.
Here, and please mark Senator Hammond as excused absence. Welcome to our audience here and in Las Vegas, remotely, and anyone else listening over the internet. Today we have introductions, adoption of committee rules, and one bill to hear. I would like to take a moment to go over some basic housekeeping items. The Senate Committee on Commerce and Labor is scheduled to meet at 8 o'clock a.m. Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, unless otherwise notified. And because we come just before floor session and I want to respect everyone's time, we will try to start at 8 o'clock exactly. So please, ma'am, please, sir, set your alarm clocks to try to be here on time. And if you're going to be late, please let Cesar Margarejo know, and he will let me know. As you know, all these meetings can be viewed through our streaming service on the legislature's YouTube channel, both of which can be accessed on the legislature's website. There are various methods for members of the public to engage with us to participate throughout the process. These include in person in Carson City with video broadcast at the Grant Sawyer Building in Las Vegas, or telephonically, meeting agenda list the calls in instructions. Submitting written comment to the committee email address listed on the agenda, or by sharing your opinion via the legislature's opinion application on Nellis. Anyone wishing to testify should sign in at the table by the door, and please present a business card if you have one to the committee secretary. Any exhibits must be submitted in electronic format no later than 8 o'clock a.m. the day before the meeting. They must be submitted to our committee manager, Terry Miller, or our committee policy analyst, Cesar Margarejo. Committee contact information may be found on the committee pages in Nellis, and some people may think that that's just a bit draconian, but she's only one person, and people got in the habit last session of sending stuff in like 30 minutes before a meeting, and if you do that, it's not going to appear. So just please know that, and please tell anyone else, if you do that, if you don't meet this 8 o'clock a.m. deadline, then it won't appear. When testifying, please remember to turn your microphone on and clearly state your name and the entity you represent at the beginning of your testimony. Speak clearly and please project your voice. Speak clearly and please project your voice. And the reason for that, there are a number of people who listen to us over the internet, and when you talk like this, they just can't hear what you're saying. And so when you talk like that, they can't hear what you're saying. And so please make sure that you speak clearly and project your voice. A reminder to all those who testify, pursuant to Nevada Revised Statutes 218E.085, it is unlawful for a person to knowingly misrepresent facts when testifying before a legislative committee. A person who knowingly does so is guilty of a misdemeanor. In other words, you can't come up here and just make stuff up, okay? In addition, any person proposing an amendment to a bill being heard by the committee must first talk to the sponsor and let them know you intend to submit an amendment. I will not entertain any amendments if the bill sponsor is not aware of the amendment. The proposed amendment must be submitted in writing 24 hours before the meeting. Please include the bill number, a statement of intent, and your contact information. And finally, please turn off all of your electronic devices, especially cell phones, or put them on silent mode during the meeting. If they go off, I'm going to answer for you, okay? So put them on silent. Appreciate that. And so with that, why don't we get started with our committee and staff introductions. I think it's important for you to know who's serving you this session. And so when you introduce yourself, and I will start from my left, your right, with Senator Stone, and give us just a little bit about yourself. It can be your sign, your astrological sign, but remember to end with a fun fact about yourself, okay? Senator Stone.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. My name is Jeff Stone. I'm the state senator from District 20, which encompasses Laughlin, Boulder City, Henderson, and Mesquite. It's a large geographical area. I'm a pharmacist by profession, graduated the USC School of Pharmacy. I've owned and operated 6 pharmacies in the past. And we call Henderson our home. We live in Anthem, my wife Regina, our 2 dogs. We have 4 kids. They're all grown and married, and we have 7 grandchildren. And so it's an honor to serve with all of you here on this committee today. Thank you.
Is that your fun fact?
And then a fun fact. My gosh. I love swimming with my lab. We have a Labrador Retriever that likes the pool more than we do. She bathes every single day, it seems like, even in the wintertime, and she kind of encourages me to go in. I say, no, it's still too cold for me. I'm not coming in.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Skip Daly, represent Senate District 13, which is entirely in Washoe County, large parts of Sparks and Reno. So my first term in the Senate, but previously spent 4 terms in the Assembly. All 4 terms that I was there, I did serve on the Commerce and Labor Committee, so I'm happy to be here. Many of these issues will be not be new, and looking forward to working on it. So happy to be here. I appreciate it. And my fun fact, our Attorney General will be happy to hear. It's been, I think, a year since I've had a speeding ticket. So.
Hello, thank you, Chair Spearman. I'm Carrie Buck, and I've been an educator serving families here and children for the past 30 years down in Southern Nevada. I serve SD5 and am in my 2nd session. I have 4 boys, the oldest being a Green Beret Army Ranger, and the second being in the Army Reserves and working for an electric car company in IT. And then the jury's out on the 12 and 10-year-old. They're still in school. My fun fact would be I used to do singing telegrams and children's birthday parties. So I was anywhere from Pocahontas to Barney.
Thank you so much. My name is Melanie Scheibel. I'm the state senator for District 9 in the southwest part of Las Vegas. This is my 3rd session and my 2nd term. I'm really happy to be here and to be back on Commerce and Labor again. It's a fantastic committee where we work on all kinds of interesting issues. I am an attorney by trade. I still do criminal defense in Las Vegas, and a fun fact about me is I grew up in Reno, and I was part of the Reno Irish Dance Company.
Hi everyone, I'm Cinder Lang. I represent Senate District 7 in Las Vegas, which is on the east side of UNLV and kind of goes all the way out to the Wash on the east side of town. I'm in my 2nd term on Commerce and Labor. It's my favorite committee. I shouldn't say that because I chair education, but
It's okay. We won't tell anybody.
I really love the diversity that we get to talk about on this committee, and there's so much going on, and served on the interim committee as well. A fun fact about I'm a retired teacher, and also I just retired last week from my daytime job, which is the operations manager for 2 gaming bars in Las Vegas. And so now I get to concentrate on my Senate stuff full-time, which I'm very excited about. A fun fact about me is that I love the Seattle Mariners, and I know that they're going to go to the World Series this year.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Julie Pizzina, and I'm fortunate to represent Senate District 12, which is parts of Henderson, Las Vegas, Green Valley, Silverado Ranch, really West Henderson area. This is my very first term, so I'm really looking forward to being here and being part of this amazing committee and wonderful team. Thank you so much, Chair. And I come from the tourism hospitality industry. I served as president of the Las Vegas Hospitality Association, served on the Commission on Tourism, where I got to learn a lot more about the rural areas of our state. A fun fact about me, other than my Braves fandom and having our tables at my wedding named after Braves players throughout history, is that I worked on cruise ships for a while and even served briefly as cruise director. And you can imagine being named Julie and working as the cruise director on a ship. Thank you.
Thank you. And I am State Senator Pat Spearman. I'm fortunate to represent Senate District 1, which is entirely in North Las Vegas. This is my 5th session, and I am a retired lieutenant colonel, but a fun fact about me is when I was stationed in Killeen, Texas, at Fort Hood, I also was a disc jockey. We called ourselves gospel announcers. And so I had an opportunity to meet and greet a lot of the gospel artists that were across the country, and also serve as the assistant program manager for KIIZ 1350 AM. This is your voice of the community. So that's my fun fact. So let's start here with Mr. Melgarejo, and we'll go down to our LCB, and then we'll come over here to the folks who support us. Without their help, we wouldn't be able to do anything. So.
Thank you, Chair Spearman. I am Cesar Melgarejo. I'm Principal Policy Analyst with the Research Division of the Legislative Council Bureau. This is my third session with LCB, my third session staffing Commerce and Labor with Chair Spearman. I'm a University of Nevada graduate and an Army veteran. I'm honored to serve with the committee as the nonpartisan policy analyst. Fun fact is last week was my 5th year anniversary here at LCB, and I got my pin.
All right. My name is Brian Fernley. I'm the Legislative Counsel with the Legal Division of the Legislative Council Bureau. I'll be Committee Counsel for the Senate Commerce and Labor this session. This is my third time doing Committee Counsel for Senate Commerce and Labor. I've also been Committee Counsel for various other committees during my time here. I've been with the Legislative Council Bureau since 2005. I guess maybe this is a not so fun fact. This is my 9th regular session, and I hope to make it long enough to start using my toes to count regular sessions. So, thanks.
Hi, my name is Vita Woolley. I am Deputy Legislative Counsel within the Legal Division of the Legislative Council Bureau. I've been with the Bureau for 3 years. This is my second session and my first opportunity to help assist on a committee, so I'm very excited. I attended law school in the great city of Philadelphia. Go Eagles! And a fun fact about me is Dionne Warwick, the singer, is my godmother.
Terry?
Hello, my name is Terry Miller. I am the committee manager for Commerce and Labor, and this is my 10th session. I retired from what is now AT&T after a 30-year career, then came here. Maybe my fun fact is I swore I would never come back. Maybe they'll term limit me out in a couple sessions. That's all I have to say. I don't have very much. Senator says, say something fun. I'm a Leo. Anyway, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Hello, everyone. I'm Chantel Roberts. I'm the legislative assistant for Senator Pat Spearman, and I am taking a 120-day break from motherhood and also outreach directing at El Shaddai Refuge Homes, where we take kids aging out of foster care and provide them transitional assistance. I think that was my fun fact.
I'm Lynn Hendricks. I'm one of your 2 committee secretaries. This is my 11th session, so I stump her. My fun fact is that when people ask me where I'm from, I have to say, well, how much time do you have? Because I'm an Army brat and I come from a great many places. But I've lived in Carson City for 20 years.
Good morning. My name is Kelly Clark, and I'm honored to be a committee secretary here. This is my first session. I am a longtime Carson City resident. And I retired from State of Nevada Department of Wildlife after 12 years, and then I spent 10 years, fun-filled years with USDA Rural Development. And a fun fact about me is in my spare time, I'm a beekeeper. So I wrangle bees, and then hopefully by the end of the summer, I'll have some honey sweetness to share. So I'm used to a little stress, and I look forward to working with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and by May, we'll probably need some sweetness, so feel free to bring it in. Okay. So I want to say thank you to the committee staff of the Legislative Council Bureau and for all of the committees, and thank you for all that you all do and will do to support us during this session. With that, let's get started. I want to start with our adoption of committee rules. And they are available on Nellis as well. So the City Committee on Commerce and Labor has an assigned meeting time of 8 o'clock, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in room 2134. Members are urged to plan their work so they can be present at each meeting, and please be on time. Meeting of the committee may not be opened without a quorum present. A quorum is 4 members. A video conference of other appropriate remote technology systems shall qualify as a meeting together. The Senate Committee on Commerce and Labor shall follow Senate Rules 53 and 131 to 136, Senate Resolution 1 of the 2023 legislative session for general guidance concerning primary committee operations. A majority of the full committee is required to pass or reconsider a bill, budget, or resolution. A majority of the full committee is required of introduction of a bill, and the committee introduction may be for accommodation only and is not to be construed as approval of the measure. No committee action on bills, budgets, or resolutions shall occur during the hearing, but shall be called up for separate action by the chair. The chair will decide when an action or vote is to be taken by the committee. The secretary shall record the votes of the committee members on all votes or other motions. The chair may appoint any number of subcommittees whose members on all votes or other motions. The chair or vice chair will convene or adjourn each committee meeting unless the chair appoints another member to do so in the absence of the chair or the vice chair. All recesses will begin at the call of the chair unless another time is specified. And again, pursuant to Nevada Revised Statute 218E.085, it is unlawful for a person to knowingly misrepresent facts when testifying in a hearing before a committee. A person who knowingly misrepresents facts before a committee is guilty of a misdemeanor, and the chair or any member of the committee may request any testifier to submit documentation supporting their testimony. Although witnesses are presumed to be under oath while testifying, the committee has the option of requiring witnesses to be placed under oath. All witnesses and presenters must speak directly into the microphone to ensure those listening in another location are able to hear the entire testimony. And when you finish testifying, please, please, please turn your mic off. Any member who votes affirmatively to pass a bill in committee is encouraged to notify the chair of any changes. Any person proposing an amendment to the bill being heard by the committee must submit the proposed amendment in typewritten format and include a statement of the intent of the amendment. And the proposal must also include the date and bill number, as well as appropriate name and contact. And again, unless you have talked to the bill sponsor, I will not entertain any amendments from the floor. Supporting documents and amendments will be uploaded into the Nevada Electronic Legislative Information System, or NELIS. Instructions regarding the electronic submission of documents appear on the committee's agenda. All assignments, directions, or requests on behalf of the committee must be communicated to its staff and to the personnel of the Legislative Council Bureau, or LCB, by the chair. A member of the committee must submit such request to the chair for transmittal to the staff of the committee or to LCB personnel. Electronic devices such as cell phones, laptops, and pagers must be turned off or muted while in the committee room. And all witnesses are to respect the opinions and testimonies of fellow testifiers and allow testimony to take place without interruption. This is a committee, and I'm sure that my colleagues that are chairing other committees will say the same, where acrimony will not be allowed. So we will not have people disrespecting folks. So please remember that, and if you do, there are a couple of folks outside the door that we can buzz, and they'll come in, and they'll kindly oblige your request to be removed from the building. So with that, let me go now, before we get into the policy analysts, let me ask if there's anyone here for public comment, either here in Carson City or in Las Vegas or on the phone. Anyone in Las Vegas? VPS, anyone on the phone? Okay. Okay, with that, there's...
Chair, your public line is open and working, and you have no callers at this time.
Thank you so much. And so with that, Madam Secretary, let's take a vote on record the vote on the adoption of the rules. Do I have a motion? Motion by Senator Stone, second by...
Second.
Wait, who? Second, Daley, by Daley. Okay, they're operating down on that end. So seconded by Senator Daley. Anyone have questions? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. All those opposed? Nay. So let the record show that the adoption of the committee rules have passed unanimously. Now let's hear a policy brief from our policy analyst and fellow veteran, Mr. Cesar Magarejo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Cesar Magarejo, Committee Policy Analyst. And I would note for the record, too, that as nonpartisan staff, I can neither advocate for nor against any of the measures that come before this committee. A copy of the committee brief has either been provided to you as a hard copy or has been posted on Nellis. The Senate Committee on Commerce and Labor committee brief provides us just a quick summary background information on the work of this committee. The brief includes an overview of the work of the committee during the 81st legislative session, and to some degree, some information on the type of bills that may come before this committee this session. You can see a table of the total number of bills that came before this committee last session. Last session, we were dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic, so it was probably the lowest number of bills assigned to the committee. Topics generally heard in this committee include banking and financial institutions, insurance, industrial relations, labor, manufactured housing, and occupational and professional licensing, among other issues. This session, this committee will also be discussing measures related to cannabis, but not medical cannabis. In the past, these topics were discussed in the Judiciary and Health and Human Services committees, and I believe medical cannabis is still being discussed in Health and Human Services. On page 3 of the committee brief also includes a summary and links to reports, publications, and audits relating to commerce and labor. During the 2021-2022 interim, the legislative auditor conducted several audits on state agencies and regulatory bodies that this committee typically has jurisdiction over. Links for those reports are provided in the committee brief. Committee brief on page 4 also contains contact information for your committee staff. And in conclusion, I just want to let all the members know, especially the new members we have this session, that I am available to assist the committee and its members on any issues related to matters that come before this committee. In addition, the research division is available to provide information and assistance on a confidential basis to all individuals of the legislature on any topic as well. Chair Spearman, this concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions? Any committee members? Questions? Okay. So seeing none, I'd like to welcome Attorney General Ford and his staff. We will now open the hearing on Senate Bill 32. It exempts persons engaged exclusively in transporting persons between certain states for certain purposes from provisions governing private investigators and related professions. Attorney General Aaron Ford, former Assemblywoman Teresa Benitez Thompson, Chief of Staff, and Heather D. Proctor, Chief Deputy Attorney General, Post-Conviction Division. So with that, please begin.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Great to see you. Good morning, members of the committee. I am Aaron Ford, your Attorney General. My fun fact is that I do some mean karaoke. But hearing all y'all's fun facts sound like we need to have a talent show or something pretty soon. So great to be here. I miss y'all, but it's always great to be here and discuss with you some of the issues that are happening in our state and particularly in our office. Thank you for the opportunity to introduce you to the Office of Attorney General. My office consists of nearly 350 dedicated and hardworking individuals who are committed to enforcing Nevada law and upholding justice for the protection and benefit of all of our residents. I want to give a quick overview of the office before we delve into Senate Bill 32. As the state's chief law enforcement officer, the Attorney General's office represents the people of the state of Nevada. I am the people's lawyer. We represent the people's best interests before state and federal trial and appellate courts in criminal and civil matters. We also serve as legal counsel to state officers, state departments, most state boards and commissions as well. Additionally, my office works with our local, state, and federal law enforcement partners to protect the public. I believe my job is to ensure justice for all Nevadans. As Attorney General, I've directed all employees in my office to approach their work in that same vein. Hence our motto, our job is justice, criminal justice and reform, consumer protection, client service, and community engagement. Each of these C's serves as a moral compass to guide the way that my office can and does serve Nevada. Now, we are here today to discuss Senate Bill 32, which relates to Private Investigators Licensing Board and the extradition process. An extradition occurs when a person is located in one state and has a criminal proceeding pending against them in another state. For example, untried criminal charges, time to serve on an existing criminal sentence, oh, I thought she was coming up, okay, or parole or probation violations. Interstate extraditions often occur between neighboring states, but can also involve states on the other side of the country. If the person is wanted in the state of Nevada and once that extradition is approved, the person must be transported from either a state jail where they are being held based on a Nevada arrest warrant, or the state prison where they are currently serving time for other crimes. The extradition process is dictated by NRS 179.177 to NRS 179.235. Transportation is governed nationally by GINA's Act. To transport the person, the Nevada prosecutor works with the local law enforcement agency. That law enforcement agency generally has two choices for transport: use their own officers or a prisoner transportation company. And therein lies the problem. To explain further, let me introduce the Office of Attorney General's Post-Conviction Division Chief and my colleague, Heather Proctor.
Good morning. For the record, Heather Proctor, Heather Procter, Chief Deputy of the Nevada Attorney General's Office. I would like to preface this by explaining that at this time, Nevada is in a crisis. We have no contract with a third-party prisoner transportation company. This is an important issue for law enforcement and prosecutors regarding the safe and efficient transportation of wanted persons between states in a cost-effective manner during an extradition. And this issue has hit a crisis level. As General Ford stated, a law enforcement agency generally has two choices to transport: use their own officers or a prisoner transportation company. As to the first choice, to use their own officers, a transport requires a minimum of 2 officers and can take 2 to 5 days or more, depending on the wanted person's current location and other considerations. Some agencies cannot utilize their own officers, either due to shortage of staff and a burden on losing 2 officers for that length of time, or a lack of adequate equipment and vehicles to conduct an interstate extradition. For these reasons, some agencies instead use a second choice, the private prisoner transportation company. A prisoner transportation company is a private third-party company that transports prisoners between states. Some of those companies employ retired law enforcement officers to conduct transports. Because these companies travel between states, they must comply with a number of federal guidelines. Those guidelines include, first, GINA's Act, which sets out minimum standards for background and drug testing for all potential employees, sets out required training for transport officers, places restrictions on the number of hours worked by each transport officer, sets a mandatory officer-to-prisoner ratio, and specifies the minimum restraints such as shackles or handcuffs required during a transport. And the U.S. Department of Transportation has statutes and regulations setting forth requirements for the transport vehicles. Now, why is the Attorney General's office involved in extradition transportation? Nevada is one of only 3 states in the country that reimburses local law enforcement for the costs associated with an extradition transport. Reimbursement does not include officer or employee hours, but actual costs such as flights, car rentals, meals, and the fees for using a prisoner transportation company. As a result, the Nevada extradition officer, who is housed in the Attorney General's office, sets forth travel guidelines which local law enforcement are expected to follow in requesting reimbursement. Historically, those guidelines suggested that local law enforcement use prisoner transportation companies that had an existing vendor contract with the state. This permitted the state to ensure that such vendors retained mandatory licensures and provided uniformity and control for the costs associated with an extradition. Notably, the costs of an extradition have increased substantially post-COVID, as most agencies and most prisoner transportation companies now primarily use flights to transport inmates rather than ground transport. The process of extending a state contract is lengthy and detailed. In the past, the state received multiple bids from prisoner transportation companies to perform these services. Most of the companies already had federal licenses and complied with federal regulations. And through the vendor bidding process, state purchasing set forth specific requirements for a vendor to qualify under Nevada law, which addressed the safety and security of transported persons, minimum liability insurance, and compliance with applicable state and federal licensing or certification requirements. However, as I mentioned at the beginning of my testimony, the state does not have a contract at this time with a prisoner transportation company and has not for the past 3 years, despite interest from several companies to perform such services in the state. This is because few companies are willing to obtain licensure prior to being awarded a state contract as required by the Private Investigators Licensing Board, or PILB. PILB requires all transportation companies to obtain a special license as a private patrol officer. The PILB licensure provision of NRS 648.140 addresses licensure of private patrol officers and requires the licensee to first maintain a location within the state for records relating to employment, compensation, licensure, and registration of employees. Second, furnish the PILB with information regarding all registered employees. And third, notify the board after employees begin their employment. PILB requires each company to obtain the license before they submit a bid for a state vendor contract. Why do the companies not wish to obtain a PILB license? First, they must do so before they even know if they qualify for and have been selected to receive a state contract. Second, the process for obtaining a license is expensive, time-consuming, and invasive, especially when you consider that the company may only spend a limited time in this state and is already required to meet existing federal requirements. The vendor contract process itself includes many of the protections afforded by such a license, and according to our research, neighboring states do not require these state licenses. With no prisoner transportation company contracted with the state, all state, county, and city law enforcement agencies have been left scrambling to find alternate means to safely transport wanted persons, which has led to increased costs and strain on existing staff shortages. A state-contracted private transportation company provides a uniform process and, we hope, additional and validated choices which all state and local agencies may use. Thus, a state-based contract leads to increased uniformity and cost control by permitting the state increased negotiation power for cheaper rates due to a higher transport volume. And just as important, the state-based contract ensures any outside agency meets the mandatory requirements under the state vendor contract, which increases the safety and security of the transported persons, transporting officers, and our communities. I will note that this struggle is not new. For nearly 15 years, the Attorney General's Office has attempted to work with PILB to revise their requirements, including the possibility of requiring a license only after the state provisionally approves a company for a contract. But historically, the PILB board was not willing to ease this requirement. As a result, over the past decade, the state entered into a contract with only a single vendor that obtained a PILB license. That contract had lasted several years. The company had open employment, and while they employed some retired law enforcement, it was not a requirement. Because that company had a monopoly on extradition transports, they forced the state to renegotiate the contract multiple times, each time increasing the costs and mandatory provisions within the contract, and the state had no choice but to comply. During this time, we learned that throughout the life of the contract, the company was the source of multiple complaints by prisoners of mistreatment during transportation as well as other issues, and toward the end of the contract, the company failed to renew the PILB license. As a result, the state refused to renew the contract. Therefore, the state has not had a contract with a prisoner transportation company for the last 3 years. Given the constraints on local law enforcement and the concerns for the health and safety of both wanted persons and the communities through which these companies travel, the Attorney General's Office seeks to exempt prisoner transportation companies whose sole purpose is to extradite persons to, from, and through this state from the PILB licensing requirements, and that proposed amendment is contained in Section 1 of SB 32. We do not intend to simply drop the PILB licensing requirements with nothing in their place. The Attorney General's Investigation Division can conduct background checks for the qualifying agent and corporate officers of these companies during the contract bidding process, consistent with the current PILB process. We also intend to adopt an annual reporting requirement for any company that obtains a contract to verify the company continues to comply with existing federal laws and provisions of the state contract, including minimum insurance, training, man-hours, and security measures. We also intend to include our local law enforcement partners, both in developing through the state bidding process the requirements and internally in that annual review, and including a representative on the state contract vetting and selection committee. This will ensure that our local law enforcement partner agencies will have a stronger voice in vetting and selecting the companies they may use in the future. In closing, the state and our local law enforcement agency partners are in a crisis mode. We must have a safe, reliable, and cost-effective means to extradite wanted persons to the state of Nevada for prosecution and to serve their sentences. But the system is broken. Local agencies often lack the manpower and/or equipment to conduct a transport themselves. A company that can secure a state contract, one that all state and local agencies can use, will lock in costs for all parties and permit the state to ensure the company meets the necessary requirements. And securing multiple contracts will avoid the adverse monopoly we recently experienced, while offering agencies a choice of companies to work with. Such contracts serve to meet our most critical concerns: fiscal security as to the costs of extraditions, ensuring continued compliance with applicable laws, and protecting those transported, our law enforcement personnel, and our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That concludes our testimony. We make ourselves available for questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Senator Stone.
Thank you, Attorney General Ford, and I don't know how you've been surviving the past few years without a vendor, but it seems like the private investigators licensing board has just been uncooperative in, I guess, coming up with some type of an abbreviated license that allows for the background checks to make sure they have the proper insurance. It's unfortunate that we have to go through a duplicative process when they already have that process in line. It's unfortunate we can't force them, if you will, or cooperate with them to do the background checks, have a reasonable license fee. I imagine it's probably cost prohibitive for people that aren't even sure they're going to get a contract, right? So it sounds like the shackles have been put on you rather than the shackles on the accused in coming into the state of Nevada. So while I would have preferred that we work with the Private Investigators Licensing Board, I'm sure you've done that. It's a shame that there hasn't been cooperation. And now you've got to endure those investigations to make sure that their staffing is appropriate, their insurance is appropriate. So is basically the difference between Nevada, and you mentioned there were 3 states that were different than the other 47, is basically this onerous licensing process that has basically negated your ability to actually have competition so we can keep the costs down for the citizens of Nevada, and your office certainly. That's been the major stumbling block is what I'm hearing.
Thank you. Heather Proctor, for the record, through the chair. First of all, I would like to note that Kevin Ingram, who is the executive director of the PILB, is joining us from Las Vegas, and that the board has voted to support SB 32 in full. Second, the 3-state reference was actually to, we only have one of 3 states in the nation that actually reimburse the counties for extradition costs. I'm not aware of what other states actually have the state licensure. We only checked the neighboring states. But it has been difficult because that licensure is difficult to obtain, and we desperately need a prisoner transportation company.
I appreciate that you're here, and I look forward to supporting your efforts to safely extradite people into the state of Nevada.
Thank you. Senator Daly.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I don't actually have a question on the language of the bill. I think it's pretty straightforward and appears to be in order, but just a curious question on the portion, like you said, we're one of only 3 states that does that. So you guys, or do you guys go through state purchasing to do the, request for proposals and all of that, and then they vet it, but are you guys involved to put in criteria and standards and the things, so that's in the contract, and then the counties basically join in, or the cities or whoever needs extradition, works like a joinder, and then you guys reimburse if they use your vendor. And then do you have multiple vendors, or you're just planning on having one?
Thank you. Again, for the record, Heather Proctor through the chair. I have been involved in the state purchasing process. That is primarily done by our Nevada extradition officer, Trina Gibson. However, we do work very closely with state purchasing. We are involved with them every step of the way for requesting bids, evaluating those bids, which I have been a part of, and ultimately determining who will receive those bids. In the past, we have not included our local law enforcement agencies on that state process. We would like to do so going forward, as this certainly has a direct impact on them. And our hope is to certainly get more than one vendor. We have had multiple companies interested, and we would hope to get 2 or 3, if possible, to give our law enforcement agencies an opportunity to choose which vendor to use.
Thank you. That answers my questions. Appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Scheibel.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Spearman, to the presenters, thank you so much for being here. It is wonderful to see you in front of the dais again. And my question was about the licensure. Obviously, it's what we're here about. I completely understand that it isn't working to have companies apply for the licensure before they get the contract. And just wasn't clear, would they still be required to get that PILB license after they get awarded the contract? Or are we replacing that with the reporting requirements and the state bidding process instead?
Once again, Heather Proctor for the record through the chair. Yes, the intent is to entirely exempt prisoner transportation companies, and we would adopt those additional requirements either through the contract bidding process or through our own agency.
Okay, thank you.
Additional questions? Okay, so I guess I have one. So if I understand the testimony correctly, there's been a monopoly, one company, and that company has not comported with existing requirements for treatment of prisoners, et cetera. You don't have to answer, but I'm just wondering, are there any consequences for doing something like that? I mean, I can understand why we have to have the bill, why this bill is coming forward, but I just cannot imagine someone just being able to get away with malfeasance like that.
Madam Chair, Aaron Ford for the record. We will accept your invitation to not answer that question.
Thank you. Additional questions, comments? Okay, thank you for the presentation. And Dr. King once said there's a fierce urgency of now, and based upon the testimony, I think that's where we are, so I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we pass Senate Bill 32.
Second.
Been moved by, fierce urgency of now. I need to take public comment. So rescind that motion, and we'll do public comment. I'm just gobsmacked about the situation here, and so anyway. Thank you, Mr. Melgarejo.
So you mean testimony in support?
Yeah, support. Anyone in support?
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Kevin Ingram, and I'm the Executive Director of the Private Investigators Licensing Board. And as the previous testimony you heard is 100% accurate. The Attorney General's office has been working with me personally as the Executive Director for many years, trying to propose amendments to existing regulations, specifically NAC 648.570, in exempting companies that want to place a bid for prisoner transport, to exempt them from licensure until after they are awarded the contract. There's a lot of companies that want to bid, but they don't want to go through that process and then lose the bid, and that's understandable. In the past, it's been presented to the board on 2 separate occasions. The board, unfortunately, did not support those amendments, and that's what brings us before you today. I'm happy to report that on December 15th, during our quarterly board meeting, SB 32 was presented to the board, and the board unanimously voted to support SB 32 as proposed. And so hopefully this is something that we can get moving on so that the Attorney General's office can be much more efficient, and we'll support any efforts. If they need any input from the board on how to help write some of those requirements, I personally am happy to assist with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Additional support? Here or North Las Vegas? I'm sorry, Las Vegas? Okay. Any in opposition? Okay. Seeing none, I believe Mr. Fernley had a question about language. No, you're good? Okay. All right. Yeah, let's try this again. All hearts and minds are clear. Let's try this again.
Thank you, Chair Spearman. I move a due pass on Senate Bill 32.
Second.
Have a motion from the Vice Chair and second from, is that Senator Stone? Okay, any questions? Motion. Okay. Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll for the vote, please?
Senator Buck,
Yes.
Senator Daley,
Yes.
Senator Lang,
Yes.
Senator Pizzina,
Yes.
Senator Scheibel,
Yes.
Senator Stone, Chair Spearman.
Yes. And so let the record show that this Senate Bill 32 has passed unanimously. And can I give the floor statement to Senator Stone? Oh, okay, I'll do. I won't put you. You'll take it. Okay, all right.
Yes, Madam Chair, and
All
thank you.
right, all right. So we'll do the floor statement to Senator Stone. Okay, thank you so much. He's still acclimating to Nevada after coming from our sister state to the west, so it's okay. And I figured I'd give you baptism by fire. Okay. Okay. All right. So thank you, Attorney General Ford and staff. I really appreciate it, and we'll report this out and get it down to the floor as soon as possible. Okay. Thank you. And with that, do we have anyone here for public comment? Either here in Carson City, in Las Vegas, VPS, anyone on the phone?
Chair, your public line is open and working, but you have no callers at this time.
Okay. All righty. So seeing that we have no callers at this time, we will say thank you again for joining us for the first edition of the Committee on Commerce and Labor, and we'll be back here. There will not be a meeting on Friday, but there will be a meeting on Monday, and our start time will be 8:30. In deference to the Super Bowl, there's some kind of game being played on Sunday. So in deference to that, we will meet at 8:30 promptly. Okay, and with that, we are adjourned.